So I guess we can begin. We're holding Perek Yud, chapter 10 in the Tanya. For those of you who have been here from the very beginning, I think you can easily get the impression that the author will give us an outline as to how to go about growing, spiritual growth in life. How does one acquire greater levels of sanctity? How does one become a more refined individual? And what are the pitfalls? What are the challenges that lie ahead in wanting to grow? Many people fail in life, not only in their marriage, not only in their relationship with other human beings, but more importantly with God. Life is a mission, life is a journey, and it's not an easy one. But if you have the tools, you have a better chance to succeed. In the very beginning of the book, he familiarizes us with certain terms, one of them being tzaddik gamur, tzaddik she'eno gamur, vebenoni. Certain individuals, certain levels perhaps we can call them, of individuals who perhaps did make an effort to somehow refine their character, to become better people, to form a stronger relationship with God, and they partially succeeded. And they're called tzaddikim shenam gemurim. In other words, they're righteous, but it's incomplete. Or at least it's not as complete as somebody who's a tzaddik gamur, which means he's pious, he's righteous in the most perfect way possible. And then there's a benoni, someone in the middle. In other words, neither here or there. He hasn't made up his mind yet, or he hasn't yet mustered the courage to try his best to grow. It doesn't mean he never will, it just means that at the present time, he may be considered just a benoni. So, he doesn't elaborate too much in the beginning, but as we go along the prakim, as we read, as we study the various chapters, we become more familiar with the various terms, Kabbalistic terms, terms that are used in Hasidut, and it becomes easier for us to follow what he's trying to teach us. In these chapters 10, 11, and 12, he begins to elaborate more on these musagim, these terms that he began to speak about. We're talking about, after all, a major achievement in life. If one is able to become a tzaddik, this is really a priority, this is really the goal of a Jew. It does not mean that non-Jews cannot be tzaddikim. There have been many, many non-Jews who've been very righteous and pious individuals, who've had a very strong connection to God. But the focus of the book is really more designed for the Jew who's working on himself and trying to do his best. After all, we do have great responsibilities, we have many commandments to fulfill. Our job, therefore, is more complex, more demanding. Therefore, we need to be aware of a lot more than just the average human being. So what is a tzaddik gamur? Tzaddik gamur, we somewhat introduced in the last chapter when we talked about the idea of hofech et hara letov. One that does not just control himself and abstains from doing that which is wrong and bad, but one that actually takes that which is bad and transforms it to good. Now, we're not talking about here changing the world, we're talking about changing ourselves. And every human being, because he is endowed with a nefesh behemi v'nefesh eloki, he is both animal and divine. We do have a soul, a spiritual soul, a divine soul, that guides us, attempts to guide us. We don't always let it because of our animal instincts. And these animal instincts can be very, very strong because, as I've said before, this is the home team. Olam hazeh, the physical world, is the home team of the Yetzer Hara, of the Nefesh HaBehemi. So it feels comfortable. It therefore wants to control. And it comes easy for the Nefesh HaBehemi, for the animal soul, to control the physical body. It takes a lot of work for the Nefesh HaEloki, which is in the intellect, as opposed to the heart, to be able to take over, to take charge, and to subdue the Nefesh HaBehemi, the animal spirit. Tzaddik gamur has succeeded in doing that. He's basically transformed the bad in him. When we say bad, we mean that which is opposed to the divine plan, that which is more physical, that which is not so interested in doing that, the spiritual. So the tzaddik gamur, the complete pious man has succeeded in transforming the Ra Letov. With Gaber al Nafsho Be'emit, he has been able to overcome his instinct, his animal instinct, and he's in charge. So what is a tzaddik shelo gamur? Tzaddik lo gamur. He's still a tzaddik, but he's incomplete. There's still a lot of work to do. Because he's still doing battle with the Yetzer Hara. As we've explained in the past, the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, does not let go. He's there all the time, day and night, 24/7, till the last day we're here in this world. And he attempts to bait us, to tempt us, right? To try to get us to move away from our mission, to make us forget, to become distracted of our main goal and mission in life. And unfortunately, many people fall for this trap. It's tzaddik sheno gamur is therefore one who struggles to a certain degree. He's still struggling, but he may have overcome, to a great extent, his animal instincts. He's not subservient to them. He's not led by them. He's strong. He's a tzaddik after all. He's called a tzaddik. He's righteous. He's a pious man. But it's not gamur because he still has it in the background. And he will not be called a tzaddik gamur until he is able to conquer completely that evil inclination. And to be able to conquer the evil inclination, we said last week, and it's important to keep that in mind because it will come in again in this chapter, it is important to remove the b'gadim hatsoim, the soiled clothing, garments that are soiled, that are dirty, from the individual. We are covered with garments, and these garments are not exterior garments, a suit, a shirt, right? We're talking about spiritual garments. Spiritual, but not necessarily good. It all depends on the energy that's there. And I use the word energy for good reason, because we're talking about something powerful. We're talking about an engine here called the Yetzer. And this Yetzer produces a certain amount of energy that leaves behind traces. It leaves behind sometimes negative traces over the body. And when these traces are still there, there's always going to be a netiyah, and a certain inclination to want to enjoy life, the pleasures of life. Even though there's nothing wrong with that. We're totally not opposed to enjoying life. But it's not as high as a level as one who takes the physical world and directs it to the service of Hashem. He uplifts it, he elevates it to a higher standard. It's a whole different ballgame. So we're not talking about doing something wrong necessarily here. We're talking about something that detracts, that takes away from the real mission. After all, you only have 24 hours. What are you going to use it for? Well, you need to sleep. You need to eat. You pray. But what about your free time? Okay, you need to work too. What are you going to do with the extra time that you have? Are you going to learn? Devote that to doing acts of kindness? What are you going to do? Or are you just going to read a novel? A book, a novel. It was a complete waste of time. Now, novels sometimes can be beneficial. It all depends on the content of the novel, of course. But it's something that never happened. It's untrue. That's why I usually call it a waste of time. Even though there are times it could be beneficial if one wants to, improve his skills in writing, in composition, or for school purposes. Perhaps the novel is based on a real story in the past. But life is short. And because it's so short, we really have to maximize our time and really decide how is it more useful and more beneficial that we use this time. And there's certain things that are really, compared to others, a complete waste of time. So, tzaddik gamur is way beyond this. In other words, he has so much clarity that he doesn't fall for all these distractions. Tzaddik sheno gamur still has a little bit of an inclination, a little bit of I guess we can call it an interest perhaps in the back of his mind. He doesn't necessarily pursue it because he's strong. He holds himself back. He realizes the importance of time. He realizes the importance of observing mitzvot. But it's in the back of his mind. It's still there, that negative energy, perhaps from the past, perhaps from his youth, the environment, after all, does have influence over everyone. And if we're not careful, it drags us along. So a tzaddik who's not a tzaddik gamur will have this challenge from time to time. Sometimes he will have to do battle. Sometimes he will not have to do battle. He can easily resist. But he still has to resist. Tzaddik gamur does not have to resist. It doesn't even present itself as a challenge to him. He's so far removed from it. He's in a different world completely. In order to better understand, however, the various levels that exist among tzaddikim, the Baal Tanya here describes ahava, love, as being something very, very similar in trying to differentiate between those who are tzaddikim gemurim and those who are not gemurim. In other words, you can see it in the level of love. How much does one love Hashem? Even husband and wife, there are different levels of how much one cares and is prepared to do for the other. Similar with our relationship with Hashem. Now obviously this is a very different kind of relationship. We're talking about a spiritual relationship with someone we do not see, even though we know he exists, and we're thankful and we're grateful for everything he does to us. But it's different. It's not physical. With human beings, there's always a certain element of physicality, of being attracted, of wanting the other person's company. So it is a little bit different. Nonetheless, there are levels. There are levels of how much one is willing to sacrifice for a friend, to go out of his way to do for someone he cares about. So he says, the greater the love, the more complete the love. The same is with the righteousness. The more he loves Hashem, the more he will be pious, the more complete will be his piety. There's another way to look at it also. There's a tzaddik that only knows good, and there's a tzaddik that also knows bad. What do we mean by knowing? Knowing, we mean familiarity. A tzaddik that is only familiar with good is a tzaddik gamur. Familiar meaning that he's totally disconnected from that which is bad. Whereas a tzaddik who's somewhat familiar with the bad, even though he controls himself, familiar means that he's aware of it, he's connected to it, he thinks about it sometimes perhaps. That is not completely tzaddik gamur either. It's just another way of describing the various levels of tzaddikim, the various levels of ahava that a tzaddik may have. And we see this all the time. There are certain individuals who are simply on a higher level than others. And don't think they're born like that. This is not about being born one way or another. This is about developing certain characteristics. And here we talk about holiness. We're talking about piety. It's not just about controlling your diet or even controlling just one midah, one characteristic like anger, which is really admirable. But when we're talking about a tzaddik, we're talking about it's all or nothing. We're talking about an individual who has made a commitment to be closer to Hashem, as close as possible. That requires work. So you have an individual who is successful in driving away the nefesh habehemi, the animal spirit, by strengthening or raising the volume, I like to say, of the nefesh eloki. In other words, how does he succeed to do that? How does he succeed in driving away the nefesh habehemi, that it no longer bothers him, he's no longer subservient to it, by raising the volume, by making the nefesh eloki stronger. This comes about, of course, through observance of mitzvot, the continuous study of Torah and Musar, which is works on ethics. We continuously need to strengthen ourselves because it's not just about doing this once a year and that's it. You stay the same. People change on a day-to-day basis. We're not the same today the way we were yesterday. Mm-hmm. So we're always changing. So in order to maintain the trend, the positive trend of ascending the mountain of God, as David HaMelech says, "Miyaleh be'ar Hashem," in order to maintain that trend, to stay on track, it is important that whatever we're doing, we do consistently, and we don't, chas v'shalom, fail to do it one day. a person learns Torah every day, it makes a world of a difference. If he just learns once a week, he'll get something out of it, but it's not the same. So one who succeeded in driving away the evil inclination as a result of strengthening his, or empowering the divine soul in him, what is he accomplishing? He accomplishes what the Torah tells us. Uviarta hara mikirbecha. So the Tanya says, Uviarta hara mikirbecha means you shall eradicate that which is evil from your midst. The Torah says, eradicate the evil from your midst. Wherever you see evil, whenever you see something wrong, get rid of it. Not only within yourself, but in your environment, in your community. If you see something wrong, get rid of it. Do something about it. Now here, we're talking about Bi'arta hara b'kirbecha. He's using that idea and applying it to eradicating the bad which is in our left ventricle of the heart. If you recall last week we spoke about the right and left ventricles of the heart. So the left ventricle is where the nefesh habehemi has its seat of power. That is the makor hata'avot, that is the source of the desires, the heart. But he says it's the left ventricle because he takes it from the Zohar that speaks about the differences between the functions of the right and left ventricles. So here we have the left ventricle, which is the source of all the tavot, because that's where the blood comes out and is redistributed throughout the body. And this is dam hanefesh, because it's oxygenated blood, blood that received oxygen from the lungs. So this is where the power of the nefesh habehemi really is. And here comes along the tzaddik and has somehow, through his masim, through his deeds, driven away that nefesh habehemi. Now it's not completely driven away. We said that he actually transformed it. Depending on his level, he may have transformed it into something good. Because you don't just drive away the nefesh habehemi, we always have it till we die. Driving it away over here means using that pasuk of V'yarta hara mikirbecha, drive away or eradicate that evil within you, meaning that you have taken over complete control. Remember the mashal I gave you, the example with the king? There are two kings who want to take over this little city. Only one can be the king. You can't have two kings who have different agendas. So here we have two kings, each one wants to, to be in charge. The nefesh eloki, the divine spirit, and the nefesh habehemi. So comes along that tzaddik gamur has transformed himself to the point that he has completely driven away the nefesh habehemi, meaning that he has taken over. The nefesh eloki has taken over and transformed the bad to good. Bad meaning that which is distracting one from doing the will of Hashem to doing the will of Hashem. In other words, he has removed that which distracts so he can focus on doing what Hashem expects of him to do. So, Uviarta hara mikirbecha is a very, very special quality because it means that the individual no longer has to do battle with the Yetzer Hara on a regular basis. It's not just about not wanting to do, it's about no heshek, no interest, no desire to even do it. Remember, we just said before, tzaddik sheno gamur perhaps may think about it, may contemplate it, right? And holds himself back, he abstains, he does a great job. He says, chas v'shalom, God forbid, I'm not going to commit a sin. I'm not going to overeat just for the sake of eating. If I'm going to eat special foods and enjoy them, it's because of the mitzvah of having better food and a better meal on Shabbat and Chagim. So his whole idea is very, very different. Why is he eating? He eats to live. He doesn't live to eat. But people have a mixture, right? There, of course, there's some power in them telling them to do something good from time to time. That's the Klipat Noga that we spoke about. Klipat Noga contains some good in it. It does from time to time do something good. But it's physical. It loves that which is physical. And if it's not convinced somehow to do the will of Hashem and to focus only on that, it could easily be led astray. Led astray meaning not only will it do what the body tells it to do, it will completely be led astray in doing the wrong things too. Because there's always going to be a difference between doing that which is completely wrong, bad, evil, and damaging, to that which is just personal and selfish. You know, I didn't hurt anybody, Yeah, but you're only focused on yourself and how you look and what you eat. So one who emphasizes the physical body, even though he may not be doing something bad and wrong in the spiritual sense, he's weakening the nefesh eloki. They both can't rule. So who's going to rule? Who's going to make a big difference in a person's life? Who's going to be the driver? One who's knowledgeable, one who knows where he's going, one who wants to arrive safely at the destination, or one who doesn't care, who's texting in the middle of his driving. He's distracted, not following the signs, just having fun driving. So V'yarta hara mikirbecha is a real special quality. It's a great achievement. It's very important that one has completely removed the meaning, that he has overcome it, that he no longer has even heshek. He's not even pulled in that direction of the desires of the pleasures of this world. So this is a tzaddik gamur, right? But a tzaddik sheino gamur, who he's talking about right now, even though he resists, even though he succeeded in driving away, in V'yarta hara mikirbecha, driving away that which is bad, that he no longer desires that which is bad. Still, he has not done what the tzaddik gamur has done. And what's that? Transform the bad into good. So V'yarta hara mikirbecha, once again, is something that every tzaddik perhaps is strong in. He controls himself. He has no interest in it anymore. But he does not necessarily transform the bad into good. What would be transformation of the bad into good in this example? That one is completely focused on Hashem alone. One is completely focused on doing the will of Hashem. He has no other focus whatsoever. So the Baal Tanya continues on to say, a tzaddik sheino gamur is called also in Hasidut, or in Kabbalah, a tzaddik veralo. When you first learned this term, you said, what? Tzaddik veralo? A tzaddik, a pious, righteous man, but it's ralo. He has it bad. Now this concept of tzaddik veralo has additional meanings that we're not going to cover right now in the Kabbalah. The basic meaning that you may have heard, the basic interpretation of tzaddik veralo, is a tzaddik, a good man, whose life is difficult. And you wonder to yourself, but he's righteous. Why does he have such a difficult mazal? The simple answer is, when he was born, was he born a tzaddik? No. He chooses to become a tzaddik when he's 20, 30, 40 years old, right? It takes a lifetime to become a tzaddik. When he was born, however, he or she, they already had a mazal. The mazal has nothing to do with the path that one chooses in life, even though Hashem can change our mazal through prayer, through change of deeds, teshuvah, and so forth, repentance. But the mazal is there from the very beginning, from day one. So tzaddik veralo that you may be more acquainted with is a tzaddik who has a difficult life. Why does he have a difficult life? Because his mazal is difficult for some reason. It could be due to a previous reincarnation. Usually it is. The Hasidut emphasizes a different kind of tzaddik veralo. The tzaddik veralo that we're talking about in the Hasidut and in the Kabbalah as well is a tzaddik who sheino gamur. He's called a tzaddik veralo because he's still somewhat connected, familiar with the ra, the bad. Not that he's bad. Remember, he abstains from bad, he resists it successfully, doesn't want it, but it's still there. He has not transformed it into something good. So this little bit of bad that is still present in the halal asmali, as he says in the left ventricle, ukafuf, it is subservient, ubatel latov, and it is annulled to the good because of mi'uto. Mi'at, he has a little bit there. And whenever you have a minuscule amount, it's not felt, it's not seen, right? It's not observable. Let's say somebody put in a couple drops of vanilla into the recipe, to the cake recipe, but only a couple drops, where they should have put a couple teaspoons. You know about baking cakes, right? Vanilla can make a difference in the flavor. You won't feel it if it's a couple drops. You won't know. Does this have vanilla? No, I can't detect it, right? So whenever you put too little of something, You may not even detect it. It's not definitely not observable. And he introduces this concept in this perek because he talks a little bit about the concept of bitul. Bitul is subservient, but it also means to annul. In the halachot of kashrut, when we talk about the dietary laws of kashrut, of kosher, you come across this concept of bitul various times. You have to know what happens if somebody by mistake used the dairy spoon to mix the cholent, to mix the meat stew. You can't mix dairy and meat. But this is not a substantial amount of dairy, just a spoon. And the spoon that has absorbed some milk, or maybe a couple of drops fell in. So you have to measure, you have to know. You have 60 times the amount in the meat versus the drops. For the drops of milk to become batel, for it to become annulled or cancelled, where they no longer give off, they no longer emit flavor. It's all about flavor here, in the case of meat and dairy. There are cases where the halacha is that afilu be'elef lo batel, that it does not cancel out even in 1,000, depending on what it is. Because it's not necessarily to do with flavor. So we have the halachot of bitul. It is true that sometimes an isur, something which is forbidden, can become annulled if there's a great amount to annul it, to cancel it. So he borrows this concept and uses it here for a tzaddik she'eno gamur. We have a tzaddik who's not gamur. He's pious, but not completely 100%. But at the very least, hara, ha-me'at ra, the little bit of bad that's still around, hanging around, kafuf ubatel. It's really subservient and it's annulled. Biglal mi'uto, it's so little that nidmelo shu giresh ota, as he says. In other words, it appears to him as though he drove it away. It's not there because he doesn't feel it. He says, it's okay, I can handle it. Nothing will happen. He controls himself, and he has done so repeatedly. Even though he was tempted, he didn't fall for it. But still, this is not tzaddik gamur because he has not transformed the little bit of bad into good. Just to remind you that even though it's tzaddik she'eno gamur, is still called a tzaddik. He does not engage chas v'shalom in doing anything that's bad. The fact that it's not gamur is still risky. Still risky. Always. Remember what we said last week. We want to reach the point where, how do we know Hashem approves of us? When the enemy makes peace with us. The Yetzer Hara leaves us alone. When the Yetzer Hara leaves the man alone, in other words, he says, oh, I can't defeat you, you're too strong for me. Then, the individual has won. Not that he can just do nothing from now on and not work at all and assume that everything will be okay, but he doesn't have to worry as much. There's no risk as much as with one who's not a tzaddik gamur, who has to be wary of any ambush out there. Let's take a quick example. Sometimes an example illustrates the point much better. You have a tzaddik who's being bribed with $25,000. That's a lot of money, right? Chaz v'shalom, no, I'm sorry, I cannot take bribes. The Torah says it's a sur. How could I do it? It's also against the law. What if you raise it to $100,000? You see what I mean? At some point, a human being can fall if you tempt him enough. When is a human being not corruptible? When he has transformed the bad to good, when he has become a tzaddik gamur, he's not corruptible because he'll just look away. He says, what are you trying to do? Money? I'm not going to take this to the grave. In other words, he's completely removed from that which is physical. His eyes, his mind are completely focused on Hashem, in doing the will of Hashem, that he doesn't even relate to this. There were big tzaddikim who did not ever put their eye on money. They didn't want to look at it. It bothered them. The sight of money. People brought them donations. They put it on their table. They didn't want to look at it. They asked their gabbai, the one who's in charge, you take care of it, give it to charity, put it away somewhere. They were so detesting of money because of what it reminds them, because of the harm it can do, that they just looked away from it. They sanctified their eyes. They were very careful. So this is where you notice the differences between tzaddikim. I mean, we are not on the level to judge anyone. You know, who's a bigger tzaddik, who's a lesser tzaddik. We definitely not judge anyone. But it exists. And he talks a little bit about this, about the myriad of levels of tzaddikim. And you can have thousands of levels, where some are more careful, some are less careful. So a tzaddik sheno gamur, who has not yet succeeded to transform the bad to good, he's still a little bit behind. And what's keeping him behind, the Baal HaTanya continues to explain, are the begadim hatzoim that we mentioned last week, are the dirty clothes, the dirty garments, the negative energy, that trace of bad that's still in him, in his heart. Begadim hatzoim is a little hard to understand because he didn't do anything. We're not talking about that he actually did ma'asim lo yafim velo tovim, that he actually did terrible deeds for which one has to do teshuvah. No. We're talking about begadim hatzoim, soiled garments that come about as a result of being connected to this nefesh habehemi, just being connected with it, enjoying life a little bit, not doing something wrong. Remember, this is something a little bit more neutral, perhaps. It's not an averah, it's not a sin, but neither is it 100% holy. So this produces begadim hatzoim in the sense that the body has now a negative energy. It's an energy that is more physical. Calories, think of calories, maybe if that's easier to understand. You want to lose the calories, you want to get rid of the bad cholesterol, and you want to increase the good cholesterol in the body. Similar. In other words, these calories maybe will not kill you, chas v'shalom, right? But it's there. And there's only room for so much fats in the body, good fats and bad fats. All right? So if you have bad fats here, they're going to take the place of the good fats. You can't have them both at the same time. You're taking away from the other. So we got to remove the bad fat. We got to remove the bad energy. Once we've done that, we can allow the good, positive energy to take over. When that happens, then the whole body is transformed. The whole individual becomes a different person. It is how foolish of me to have spent so much time and energy on silly things. When life is so short, I'd rather focus on what I need to focus. But a person will never get there. Impossible that he will be able to do so if he has a lot of this negative energy, negative fat in him still. That he calls, or that we call in the Kabbalah, begadim hatzoim, soiled garments. This is traces, leftovers of the Yetzer Hara. Clean it up. Make room for begadim nekiyim, for clean garments. Now we switch to tzaddik v'tovlo. Tzaddik v'tovlo, however, is one who has transformed the bad to good. And he's done that because he has removed the begadim hatzoim, the dirty clothes. How does he do that? When slowly but surely mo'es, he detests. He completely detests. He's repugnant. That's even a better word. Of all the ta'anugim and pinukim of ha'olam hazeh. Repugnance, you know what that means? It means that he hates it. There's a difference between hate and repugnant. Repugnant is something more physical. You just, you're repelled by it. He's repelled by that which is ta'avot ha'olam hazeh. In other words, as long as it's not for avodat Hashem, because you could have things that are for avodat Hashem. I mean, we drink wine kiddush, we eat things for mitzvah. But it's a tzaddik v'tovlo, or it's a tzaddik gamur, is repelled by that which is only ta'avot, just to satiate himself, not for avodat Hashem, not for the service of Hashem. In order to be able to understand what's going on in the mind, in order to be able to understand what is happening with this tzaddik, the Baal HaTanya goes on to say that this tzaddik has reached a level, a point, ששונא את הסטרה האחרה. He hates the impure forces. Anything that is nimshach מהקליפה, anything that is draws its energy from the unclean shells. He hates it. He hates it so much because his love for Hashem is very, very strong. When your love for something is very strong, you will hate that which is the opposite of it. Since it's the counterpart. We're talking about the counterparts. Love, intense love on one side, therefore intense hatred for the opposite on the other side. In other words, the ahava makbila lasina, it's parallel. The greater the love for Hashem, the greater the hate for that which Hashem hates and Hashem dislikes. As he brings down the pasuk in Tehillim, Tachlit sin'ah sinetim, David HaMelech says, I hate with the utmost hate those who Hashem hates. So the greater the love one has for Hashem, the greater his hatred will be for that which is bad. And the more he will be repelled by that which goes against the will of Hashem. So mi'us, repugnance, is the opposite of ahava in the same way that sin'ah, hatred, is the opposite of ahava. In other words, they're both similar. Right? One is talking about more about the sitra hara, the impure forces, and the repugnance is more about that which is physical, the pleasures of this world. So, now that we understand what a tzaddik gamur, tzaddik v'tovlo is all about, when it comes to ahava and sin'ah, it is easier to comprehend how a tzaddik, who is not a tzaddik gamur, will not have the same degree of hatred towards the bad. On the contrary, he will have some degree of tolerance, unfortunately, for it. He will not fight it. He will not, what's the word for it? He will not oppose it as much as a tzaddik gamur who hates it. You see the difference? And when one does not oppose or protest that which is wrong, the Baal HaTanya continues on to say, it's because yesh lo adayin shemetz, he still has a trace of those pleasures, or those physical pleasures of this world. Because the bgadim tzoim, the dirty garments, have not been removed. I decided to expand a little bit on this idea, very important idea of what does it mean that one who is not a tzaddik gamur has a certain level of tolerance for that which is bad. Very important idea. Even though the Baal HaTanya mentions one of the pesukim in Tehillim that expresses how much one should hate that which is bad, I have another pasuk that I like to use. Ohavei Hashem sinu ra, which may be more familiar to you. Those who love Hashem hate that which is bad. You really love Hashem? You love God? Then you should hate that which is evil, that which is bad. What is he telling us? Isn't that obvious? No, it's not obvious to everyone, because a lot of people, they love Hashem. And they don't do that which is evil, but do they hate evil? It's one thing not to do the evil, and another thing, completely another thing, to hate it, to oppose it, to fight it. One who really loves Hashem hates that which Hashem hates. And I would like to add, one who loves Hashem also loves those that Hashem loves. So therefore, one who is not exactly opposed to that which is bad and that which is evil, is indicative that his love for Hashem is not 100%. There are times when situations arise when we have an opportunity to protest, to voice our opinion about something being wrong. Not everybody is strong enough to do so. Not everybody has an interest or desire to do so. You should know that that is indicative. Zemochiach ba'alil, it demonstrates, it indicates that he has a certain weakness. His koach ha'itnagdut, the ability to oppose, to protest, is very weak in him. Why? Why can't he say, I'm against it? It bothers me. I'm opposed to it. Why don't you just open your mouth and do something about it? Try your best. Do something. He's tolerant. That shows that is indicative that he has a little bit of that, a little bit of a trace of that bad in him. Otherwise, if he would be completely clean, he would be very opposed to it. He wouldn't be able to tolerate it. He wouldn't be able to take it. And this, unfortunately, is seen throughout history. As you know, this coming Sunday is Tisha B'Av. The destruction of the Second Temple came about, the rabbis tell us, because of baseless hatred, sinat chinam. You have great people, great leaders, who unfortunately had the symptom too. There are many stories in the Gemara about that they didn't protest. They didn't do something about this problem. Why not? Why not bring it to people's attention, oppose it, talk about it, teach it, stand up whenever you see something that is wrong, that is tainted with sinat chinam? Because they themselves, unfortunately, were tolerant of this a little bit. They let it go. This weakness is because, unfortunately, they didn't realize. Perhaps it skipped them. They were focused on other things. You know, we can't blame them because we're so far from being on their level. So we have to be careful on how we judge the great leaders of the past. Nonetheless, this is not something that I'm saying. This is something that is documented. That means that there was a problem, a weakness in the generation, a weakness amongst jury, amongst the leaders even, who simply did not overcome this particular weakness. You have this in the Egel too, with the golden calf. Even though the golden calf was perpetrated, instigated by the Erev Rav, which were not Jews from the very beginning. They converted, they joined us. The multitudes that left Egypt with us. What did everybody else do? They sat back and did nothing. You did nothing, you didn't protest, you didn't try to stop it. That means that you went along with it, that you consented. You can't just say, I take the fifth. The fifth, right? You can't just keep silent. You have the right to be silent. No, you do not have the right to be silent. You have to take a position here. This is dangerous. This is wrong. Do something about it. Say something, whatever you can. If you don't do anything, that means you are admitting, you are consenting that you tolerated this, that you go along with it. You may not do this, but it's okay with you. That's the problem of allowing things to happen without trying at least to oppose it. So when it comes to tzaddikim who are not tzaddikim gemurim, you will find that there are various levels of them with various kinds of weaknesses, and those weaknesses will have to do with which yesod, which of the four elements is their weakness. There are some that may have a weakness in the element of water, others with the element of fire, air, and earth. Not everybody is the same. There's all kinds of weaknesses, whether it's anger, whether it's food, whether it's laziness, right? It all comes from different elements that we have in our makeup of our personality. So tzaddikim, they're righteous, they're pure, and they observe the mitzvot, and they hold themselves back from doing that which is wrong. Nonetheless, they still may have those weaknesses, unless they have completely transformed themselves. Tanya goes on to say that when it comes to a tzaddik gamur, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says, "Ra'iti b'nei aliyah vehem mu'atim." Now, this statement by Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai has a different meaning in general terms, how it is understood in the Gemara. B'nei aliyah means I saw b'nei aliyah, and there are very few. What is b'nei aliyah? Individuals who are really working on themselves to refine their characters, to grow in Torah, to become stronger in their connection with Hashem. Those are called b'nei aliyah. They're always on their way up. They're always ascending the mountain of Hashem, working continuously on growth, spiritual growth. And he says, I saw such a b'nei aliyah, but hem mu'atim, there's so few. There are not too many in this world. In every generation. There are some, but they're very few. So here, the Baal HaTanya uses Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai's statement to elaborate a little bit more on who those tzaddikim gemurim are. He says, he meant the tzaddikim gemurim. They are the bnei aliyah. They are the ones who transform the bad into good. They are the ones that elevate everything to the kedusha. So he brings down the Zohar, the introduction, the beginning, the incident with Rab Hiya. Rab Hiya wanted to go up to the Heichal, to the chamber of where Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai is. You know, in Shamayim, there's different Hechalot, there's different palaces, different rooms, and he wanted to visit, to see the place of Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. He heard the voice all of a sudden say as follows: whoever transformed darkness into light in that which is bitter to sweetness, he can enter and he can visit him. In other words, if you haven't yet done that, you're not on the level of even visiting, of coming by and seeing Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai in the upper world. What does that mean? He's talking about Bnei Aliyah, those who transform, those who change that which is bad into good, choshech, darkness into light, that which is bitter into sweetness. That is the ability of tzaddikim gemurim, of taking that which is bad and transforming it and changing it into good. So in other words, if you haven't done that, if you're not on that level, don't think about seeing Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Another interpretation of Bnei Aliyah is those who do their work מבחינת aseh tov. In other words, they observe the mitzvot letzorech gavoa. They don't do it for themselves. They don't do it because of some reward. They don't do it because they enjoy it. They do it purely for the sake of Hashem. There are those who want to do a mitzvah because they really want to get close to Hashem. They're thirsty for Torah. That's beautiful. That is not the ultimate goal. That's not the highest level. The higher level is when one does something purely, as they say in English, in altruistic form. I don't think most of you have heard of that word, altruism. Pure. L'shem shamayim, for the sake of God. Not for any interest, even though my interest is also pure. I want to get closer to Hashem. No. Here we're talking about Bnei Aliyah, whose complete focus is on doing something only letzorech gavoa, only for Hashem. The Navi, he brings down the Navi that mentions, Hoi kol tzameh lechul hamayim. Anyone who's thirsty, go to water. What water? The water is the Torah. In other words, if you're interested in getting close to Hashem, the medium by which you can accomplish that is through the study of Torah. That's true. So the Prophet is encouraging those who want to do it. Is he talking about to tzaddikim gemurim, to Bnei Aliyah? No. This is a lower level than that. This is just to get close to Hashem. Yes, follow these instructions. Go to the water. Study Torah. You connect to Hashem. Tzaddik gemur, Bnei Aliyah. He's on a higher level completely. Not that he doesn't learn Torah. He's already beyond that. In other words, beyond that, meaning that he has transformed that which is bad to good. He does things only for Hashem. He doesn't have his own interest here of wanting to connect. Of course he wants to connect, but that's not his focus. The emphasis here is doing what Hashem wants. Perfecting this world, bringing Hashem into this world. Nothing to do with him. That is where the big difference lies. So what is really Bnei Aliyah? If it's not one that just goes to the water because he's thirsty. So he brings another example, one that's mentioned in the Tikkunei HaZohar. He says, Eizu Chasid zeh shemitchased im kono. Who's a real pious man? One who's benevolent, who does that which is good with his master. That's the simple translation of the word im kono. Usually that means a person who's mitchased. He always looks for ways of doing that which is right in the eyes of Hashem. Beautiful. But here it says, the pirush here is, who is a chassid? Zeh shemitchased im kano. Kano in Hebrew also means ken, nest. One who's benevolent with his nest. The nest over here means his shoresh, his source, Hashem. But it's not just the creator here, it's the source of everything. What does that have to do with this? Well, the source is very important because what is he trying to accomplish? This tzaddik, or this chassid, wants to be miyahed, kudsha brichu, and his shekhinah with the tachtonim. In other words, he wants to be miyahed, he wants to unite the divine presence of Hashem and God in the lower world, that it should be felt here. He wants to bring about this connection in the presence of Hashem down here below. Through his deeds, this is what he wants to do, which is really what the Jewish people, their mission is all about, is to disseminate the light of Torah in the world, to teach the world of the existence of Hashem. By doing so, bringing Hashem down, in other words, connecting the Shekhinah with this world. So he further elaborates and says like this, the Raya Mehimna, which is also in the Zohar, says like this, the level and the desire of this individual, this chassid, who wants to make this connection of Hashem, of his divine presence with this world, is in such a way like a son who wants to do the will of his parents much more than his own will. His love for them is much greater than his love for himself. He would be prepared to even give his life, if necessary, livdot otam, to redeem them. So this is a very, very high level. Now, there were people who gave their lives for Hashem, even though they were not necessarily at the highest level. But this is a form of love that is very pure, when you don't think about yourself as much as you think about Hashem. In order to be able to reach that level of purity or of being prepared to do something like that, obviously the emunah has to be strong. No one who has any doubts or hesitations in emunah will be able to do so. It takes strength, it takes courage, it takes purity. Purity of the soul. It's not just enough to resist the pressures. You have to believe in this completely. You have to have no hesitations about it. So that's the level of a chassid, a real chassid that wants to be miyahed Hashem in this world, who wants to connect that divine presence with this physical world. That's all that's on his mind. And because that's all on his mind, everything that he does, all the mitzvot, is for this purpose alone. And doesn't really think about his own needs as much. There's no time to think about his own needs. So the Baal Tanya ends up this perek by telling us that these two pirushim are both apropos, they're both acceptable in explaining Bnei Aliyah. Whether you're talking about Bnei Aliyah that transform the bad to good, or whether you're talking about the ones who wish to connect the divine presence in Hashem with this world. Because they both really work together, they both are acceptable, because what is being accomplished here, what is wanted here, is the birur, is birurim from the noga, klipat noga. We want to refine the klipat noga, we want to remove the bad, we want to filter out the good, right? We want to perfect it. And in order to be able to perfect it, he introduces to us a very, very deep Kabbalistic concept that I'm going to try to explain a little bit. That's the Kabbalistic concept that deals with female waters and male waters. Mayim nukvim and mayim dechurim. This will be new to many, many people who may not have learned Kabbalah, but it's a very important concept. Female waters and male waters. If you understand this properly, it will help you understand another concept called itaruta de letata and itaruta de le'ela. The awakening down here and the awakening up there. Okay, so perhaps I'll explain it as follows. Think about the sun and a regular fire, like a candle. What's the difference? The sun has its own fire, its own energy. It gives out fire and light and warmth automatically. Fire down here in this world, this physical world, if you want it to still be lit and to give off anything, it has to be attached to a wick, to firewood. There has to be some material that continues to fuel it. If you remove the fuel, the source, the fire goes back to its yisod. It goes back to where it came from. You follow me? You see the difference between the sun on its own versus the fire that we are more familiar with, that we use. There has to be something that we must do in order to make it burn. Itaruta deletata means an awakening down here. In other words, man is told that if he wants to have Hashem do something for him, he must do something. You're not going to get stuff for free. You have to awaken. You have to do something down here below. Itaruta deletata, down here below. Awaken yourself and do something so that Hashem should be awakened or want to give you the blessing, the shefa. There's different kinds of itaruta dele'ela. Itaruta dele'ela, which means an awakening above, can come about by itself even without the bottom being awakened. Sometimes Hashem awakens us, wakes us up. Get up, without even us having done anything, because He wants to wake us up. Or because it's a certain time, propitious time during the year, that automatically motivates us and wakes us up because it's connected to the past, like during the holidays. Chodesh Elul, the month of Elul, is a propitious time for Teshuvah. So there are times that the awakening happens from above without anything being done at the bottom. There are times that they awaken us with the intent of pushing us. But usually, the idea of awakening down here is in order to be able to bring about the shefa, the blessing from Hashem. Mayim nukvim is the similar idea. Female waters mean waters that are coming from the receiving end, from the vessel. The female receives, the male gives. So the waters are being elevated in order for the waters of the male to come down. So whenever you see the term Mayim nukvim, it has to do with that effort that needs to be done here in order to bring about that which we want to come down from above. So here you have the ma'asim of the Bnei Aliyah, of those righteous few individuals who are continuously working on self-growth, that they are trying to elevate those Mayim nukvim, the female waters, by doing what they can to make yichudim elyonim, by making all kinds of unifications, if we can call them that, in the upper worlds. Through their pure deeds, they accomplish that. They're able to accomplish a lot of positive work in the upper worlds. They're pressing certain buttons, look at it that way. And as a result of their yichudim as to what they unify in the upper world, they're able to bring down all that shefa, all those blessings. In other words, the Mayim dechurim, which are what? Which are chasadim, which is all acts of kindness. And acts of kindness, that which is good, comes about by way of mitzvot as well. In other words, when Hashem gave us the mitzvot, it's also a chesed, through which we observe, we get all that shefa, all that blessing from Him. So that's also a form of Mayim dechurim coming down from Hashem, giving us the mitzvot by which we can eventually get all that shefa that Hashem wants to give us. So you have either the individual who does the will of Hashem in such a way that he accomplishes all those yichudim in order to bring the Shekhinah into this world, or you have the one who takes that which is bad and transforms it to the good. Either way, they both have something in common, and that is the birurim from Noga, is to filter out the good from the bad, to remove that which is bad, to transform that to something which is good, and that is what causes all the shefa, all the good to come down into this world. Just to finish up, this concept of Mayim nukvim, Mayim dechurim, is something that is constantly happening. A Jew, through his maasim, whether it's his prayer or his mitzvot, especially if it's done in a pure way, as we've explained in the past, with the right kavanah, has tremendous power. If it's not pure, then whatever we do is seen as something routine. It doesn't go anywhere. It's powerless. There's no batteries. One that prays with the minyan, one that studies Torah at all time, one that uses his mouth in a proper way, in other words, he does not gossip. So that mouth is more powerful, is holier than a mouth that talks foul language. If he uses it in the proper way, he has the proper kavanah, he does other good things, this is a powerful motor to elevate all that water and all the good things that we're trying to do in this world, to transform the bad into good, to elevate this physical world to be a holier place where the Shekhinah will want to reside. The Bet HaMikdash was destroyed because, what am I doing here, Hashem says? They don't want me. There's no room for me. They're interested in themselves, not in me. Instead of elevating and doing everything for me, they're not. They're opposed. They're doing other things, the wrong things. If we want to rebuild that Bet HaMikdash, we have to realize we have that power. But it has to be used in the proper way to elevate this world, to show Hashem that we want Him to reside here. We want Him to rebuild the temple. Because what is the temple if not a place where He can dwell with us? So the mitzvot and maasim tovim, that is the way we connect to Hashem, and that is the way we drive away the darkness from this world. So much is accomplished as long as we intend to do it for His sake. Then it's powerful. Then it has the ability of driving away. Remember what we said before. The difference between the two tzaddikim is an immense difference. It's not just about abstaining from doing evil, holding yourself back. That's very nice of you. But you want to drive away the evil. You want to transform the evil into good. You want to make this world a better place. You want to elevate this. You see where the two tzaddikim are different? How much more can be accomplished if everybody got together and says, we want Mashiach to come now. We want to rebuild the Bet HaMikdash. We want to do anything that is necessary. And what that will include, of course, is driving away the baseless hatred, the lashon hara, that we still have, unfortunately. We're still tainted with that. To be very careful in respecting every human being, Jew or non-Jew. To love Hashem's creatures. To elevate that which is bad in this world to good. In other words, by giving more power to the good, more power to the Kedusha, which includes protesting and opposing that which is wrong. This will give us the power, and this will demonstrate to Hashem that we really love Him, that our love is pure. And if we demonstrate our love for Him, as we have done so in the past when we were prepared to die for Him, then the time will soon come that He will demonstrate His love for us. Amen. Amen.